Okay guys, welcome to the second episode of Mamemeister and Chums Talk Pish. I'm absolutely delighted to eventually get online a relatively new YouTuber, and he's actually, I really enjoy watching all his videos. It's PC Baker. Jay, how you doing, Squire?
I'm doing very well, Alan. It's been a bit of a trial, managed to get us both synced up so we can actually speak, but we've just about managed it tonight, I think.
This seems to be a very common thing at the start of all my interviews. It's like, well, we eventually got here.
We did indeed. Here we are.
Brilliant. Listen, Jay, just before we can start,
Sure.
Would you like to tell the sort of guys a little bit about yourself? I mean, you're obviously quite a new YouTuber, I think. I mean, how long have you been on YouTube for, you know, actually making
September the
videos?
2nd was my first video that I uploaded. Basically, I fallen in and out of love with computers, to be honest with you, over the years. Some years I might not touch them, I get into woodworking or a different hobby, and other years I don't do anything but play games, and I pretty much have that kind of relationship with them. And this year, or over the last year I should say, it's been a computer year, and probably a little bit too much, because I was playing a first-person shooter game called Insurgency. I don't know whether you've come across that game at all. It's,
I don't think so.
It looks to a casual observer something like Call of Duty, that kind of game. But the thing about it is it's very realistic. You don't have any ammo counts on there, you don't have any assistance. It's usually one hit, one kill, and it makes for a very strategic kind of game with it, you know, 'cause it's very tense. And I was enjoying that, playing that a lot with some friends, and I played it a bit too much, and I managed to get some nerve damage in my left arm. So I can't...
It's like a real life damage.
Honestly, yeah, it's that realistic. You be wary of that game. So basically, I went back in time a little bit and started rediscovering my first love, which was really shoot 'em ups and the old retro scene. And you know, I've always been in and out of it over the years, and decided, you know, why not have a crack at making a few YouTube videos? And I'm not a very outgoing person, in that people were surprised when they said, "Mike, what are you doing them for?" I said, "Oh, have a look." And my friends and everything been very supportive. They just said, "I could never picture you doing it, YouTube videos." And I've managed to, I've broken through that a little bit now, feeling a little bit more confident about doing the videos and getting them out there, and enjoying the production side of it as well. And
that's actually interesting you say that, because I mean, obviously you know, you've only got the voice, and in some cases the sort of like the video images of people, and you know, you can always detect. I mean, when I watch some of my early videos, I'm like, you know, Mr. Wooden, you know, comparison. But I was talking to one of the guys at Play Manchester, obviously at the weekend there, and we were kind of talking about the whole confidence thing, and I says, yeah, when I watch, you know, I can quite happily now sit and talk to the camera like I'm talking to a mate in the pub, and I think the thing for me is, A, you do get used to it, and B, I feel I've now got an audience. I've actually got somebody listening, so I am effectively talking to people, albeit I'm pre-recording it. But before, when you first start a YouTube channel, you're effectively talking to nobody.
Exactly.
You think, you know, and that's why it's certainly a skill. And I don't think there's anybody that's just going to pick it up right away. But no, I mean, obviously you've only been going, what? I mean, we're the 12th of October. You've only been going just about a month and a half. And what are you up to now, subscriber-wise?
I've just broken 50 subscribers, so I'm really happy with that. Yeah, I think it was less than 2 weeks ago I just broke 25. But this
and you've doubled that.
I've doubled that really quickly. One of my highest viewed videos is the PCB show, one of my latest ones. I've done really well with that one for views. It's
that's excellent. Yeah,
I've only got one more video which has more views, and that was the very first video I did, which was for a real-time strategy game called Acts of Aggression. And I knew that one would be semi-popular, even from an unknown, because it was an anticipated game. So I thought I'll do that one first and see if I can pull in a few videos, maybe some subscribers. And it worked out well for me. It's still my best video. But this show that I did on the 5th of October, I uploaded it. You know, it's done really well for me. I did promote it a little bit, though, in some of the shoot 'em up forums, and just saying, you know, I put together a little 25-minute video and asked the guys for a bit of feedback there, and they've been really supportive as well, and offering me some new perspective on it, which is always good to get.
Brilliant, brilliant. The funny thing is, I mean, like my daughter, like most kind of kids, I mean, she will watch. I can't think why she wants to watch somebody playing video games. I mean, who would have thunk it? I mean, she likes watching people playing Minecraft,
Does
and
she?
you know, she'll say, how many subscribers have you got, Dad? I said, oh, 400. Oh, PewDiePie, he gets like 4,000 in a day. I said, yeah, I know. And the thing is, I mean, yeah, I've got kind of mixed feelings. I tend to tell people, never ever worry about your subscribers, never worry about downthumbers, and yet I'm the first person to, think, oh, I've lost subscribers or whatever it is.
It does hit you hard, I can tell. It really affects you.
Yeah, it's maybe I don't know. I think I tried to explain it in Friday's Waffle.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's not so much like, oh, I had 415, I've only got 410. It's really got nothing to do with the numbers. I think, to me, it's like, I don't know, you might be old enough to remember Opportunity Knocks.
Yes, I do, yeah.
Where they had the clapometer, the louder, hey, the better you were. To anybody under the age of 30, Opportunity Knocks was basically the X Factor for the 70s.
Yeah.
And I think they rather than the phone vote, rather than phoning or texting in, people clapped, and there was always a guy manually holding this arrow, and depending on how loud he thought the claps was, he moved this thing up.
Yeah.
Fluctuate.
You got the Roman Emperor with his thumb in the middle there, haven't you? Off with his head.
But, I kind of think I look upon like subscribers as being like the clapometer. You're thinking, oh, it's great, people are enjoying it, oh, more people are watching it.
Something you did touch on was your friend in Singapore, that possibly who was giving you the downfall all the time, but with that, I think, I've had a couple. I've only had two, I think, up to now over the entire videos. I've been very lucky. But I think if they don't explain it, or if they say, you're going way off track, or I'm not interested in this, I'm unsubscribed, you think, fair enough, because you've got some kind of explanation or something you can kind of rationalise. But it's when you're a small channel, it really hits hard, I imagine. Really hurts.
I mean, I've always made my feelings known about how much I detest the down thing. It serves. I can't think of any purpose. I can understand if I was you and I were selling products.
Yeah.
Don't buy to this guy because he's a scammer.
Yep.
Down. Oh, bloody hell! I'll avoid him. But what we do is we do things completely for free. We do it off our own back, because we enjoy it. But at the end of the day, we're hopefully entertaining people, if that's the right word to use, and. For somebody just to go, it's crap. I mean, the way I see it when, you put out a video of like me playing Bruce Lee in Atari 800, what do you really expect? If you're going to watch a video that's called, Mamemeister plays Bruce Lee in Atari 800, why are you going to give it a thumbs down? If you thought you were going to be getting Minecraft, then you're going to be bloody bitterly disappointed. But it's
but that video, I'll be honest with you, that particular video was a great video. It's probably one I'll go back to again if I'm talking about Bruce Lee to somebody or something like that. I want to reference it. I'll probably put that video on because it encompasses all of it. Everything that I'd want to say is there in the video. I thought it was a really well put together video, and instantly, I think I was one of the first viewers within the first 10 anyway, and the downvote was there straight away. I thought, what? How?
I think it was literally within the first 3 views. So there's obviously somebody. I mean, it's the same. I mean, you watch any of the other guys. They've all got, I mean, obviously the bigger the channel you are, the more down thumbers you get, sort of thing. But I just don't. I would never. I've watched plenty of videos and I think, no, I'm not really enjoying that. I wouldn't really putting down, if somebody was putting a picture of child abuse up, saying, oh, this is great, then I would phone the police and I wouldn't even down thumb it. But you know what I mean? It's, I've never really quite understood that. But yeah, I kind of look upon the subscriber thing as being like the clipometer. You're putting out videos and you think, oh, hopefully people will enjoy that, and oh, excellent, got another couple of subscribers today, whatever.
You're going to hear this then, Al. There's something coming out, and it's a new app and social networking phenomena that's in the curtains at the minute. All right. And it's coming out very soon. It's called People, P-E-E-P-L-E, and it's about rating people, not shops, not businesses, not food, not accommodation, people. They're going to put your mugshot up over there, where you work, what you do, and start slacking you off in public, basically.
Dear me.
So it's getting worse, I'm afraid. So just be happy it's just a down thumb.
But it's funny. Sometimes, you know, I'll put out a video and I'll, you know, I mean, you can look at my videos, and I like to think the content's quite entertaining, but the production values of my videos are absolutely shit. You know, I mean, compared to like guys like yourself, and there's other channels out there that just really, what do you call it? You know, really high production values, but.
It's not all about that at all. It's like what I struggle with a bit, really. I'd like to be the producer and editor of a show and have somebody else be an actor reading out a script. I don't very much enjoy being in front of the camera, to be honest with you. The voice I don't mind too much, but you're very natural at it. And down the rabbit hole as well, he's incredible. I'm not sure whether he's got some acting in his background or something theatrical, but he's so natural, and, you know, he adopts different personas, no problem at all. He's fantastic. Really is, and you're a great talker. You know, like you say, it's like you sat down with your mates. You just sit down there, very relaxed, and off you go. You know, I'd struggle a little bit with that, but you do it fantastically. You really pull it off well.
Well, all I can say is that you come across very well as well. You're very natural.
Well, thank you for that, but I don't feel
you know. I think sometimes, but I was actually glad you interrupted me there, because I'd run out of what I was going to say, and I thought, I can't remember what I was going to say there, and you can kind of give me time to think about it.
Drag you back in.
What would you call it? Yeah, you know yourself, you put together, I tend to look at some of my videos. I mean, the Friday Waffle is point the camera and talk for half an hour, and that's it. Excuse me, and, you know, my 10-minute mashups, quite literally take 10 minutes to make, you know, and half an hour to upload, whatever. But, you know, some of the other ones I do, like the Arcade Perfect My Arse, and some of the other ones, and like even the one from last night or whatever day it was, the Manchester thing, you know, it takes me a wee bit longer kind of thing, and you think, that's really good, people are going to think that's great, and then again down, you know, not so much down thumb, but you can lose subscribers. It's like, I've just put what I think's a good video, but there's absolutely no secret ingredient is to make it an entertaining video. You know, I think it's something that you can actually try too hard.
Yeah.
I think you've just got to, because at the end of the day, what I'm selling and what you're selling is ourselves.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
If you don't like my face, whatever, you're not going to enjoy what we're talking about.
Sure. It's like, it's very rare that I'll put something out that's just a raw recording, even if it's just audio. I'll tend to, as I'm speaking the dialogue, I think, no, I didn't like that, and then I'll say the same sentence again. I think it's a bit of heavy breathing, I can hear that, and I'm in the audacity there, and I'm thinking, right, I'll clip that bit out there and put that bit in, and I'm chopping and changing the audio track and everything, and then listen to it thinking, that sounds like it's edited in, I better reduce the bass on that little bit there, and I'm trying to get it very consistent. I spend way too long editing and putting together, which it shouldn't be like that, you know, it should be more spontaneous, but I'm growing, you know, I'm adapting to it and getting used to it.
Yeah. The important thing is you enjoy it. But
exactly.
Anyway, that's excellent. That's excellent. Obviously, I mean, well, you know the history, how I got to know about your channel. I think it was Kevin down the rabbit hole. He had actually, I think, did he give you a shout out? I think.
Yeah. What happened was, I was looking through some of the retro guys' channels, including your own, and I was just looking for a way in somehow where I could introduce my channel without spamming, you know, my channel's address on there. And at the time, he had a request for video responses for, I can't even remember what it was now. It was.
A small channel allowed to give a shout out or something.
It was possibly that one, but it was something around that. It was that one or the one before it. But he does it quite often, doesn't he? He's very, very social, Kev, with his interaction. It was, do YouTubers have a responsibility to subs? That's the question that he posed, and I thought I'll just respond to that, even though I didn't have any subscribers at all at the time, I don't think, but I thought I'd respond to it, and hopefully, you know, that might give me a little bit of traffic and introduce myself to that circle, which it did very effectively, and I'm very grateful for Down the Rabbit Hole there for giving me a little bit of exposure, because it's helped me greatly.
Yes, I think that was. I think it was either so he had viewed your video or else I saw your comment, something like that. I know. I always go and have a quick look. I mean, there's a million sort of retro gaming channels out there, and I mean, I'm only subscribed to about 50 channels, if that actually. But I had a look at it, and I can't even remember what the first video I watched. And I think it was a shoot 'em up because you tend to concentrate on these, and I'm a massive shoot 'em up fan as well, and I really enjoyed it. And then obviously you've been costing me a bloody fortune in Steam, but you've been putting all these fantastic shoot 'em ups, like but.
Good stuff.
So yeah, brilliant. So anyway, listen, I think what we'll have a wee chat about tonight, Jason, is just you're a massive shoot 'em up fan,
I am
as am I. Just really, what have I actually written down here? Written down a few bits and pieces. It's actually just before we actually starting that, I was chatting to you a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned that you'd actually sort of done a bit of programming yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was a commercial computer games programmer. It was my first job. Which was a terrible first job to have because it was flexi hours to do what you want and, sleep in the office if you like and come in at noon if you like. It was that kind of environment. So what happened was I was in my mid to late teens, probably about 13 years old, something like that. Got very interested in what peaks and pokes were, and what does this poke actually do? Why does it give you infinite lives? And what this poke does, it changes an operation code in machine language, so the actual computer running, the program running, would operate in a different way. Instead of decrementing your lives or whatever it might be, it changes it to a different instruction. So I started looking at that, started understanding it. And I had a cartridge from my Commodore 64, which was called an Expert cartridge. And it was made by Daytel Electronics, if you remember that. And it was a forerunner to the Action Replay, really, and it allowed you to, freeze a game, have a look at the code and all that stuff. So I started to learn that, and I picked up a book called Programming the Commodore 64 by a guy called Ray West, I think it was, and it was a fantastic book, really explained the 64's architecture in incredible detail. And I got into programming, and so I'm about 15 years old I was. I'd just done my exams at school, and I was working on a game called Alpha Runner with a good friend of mine, Stephen Green. And so I'd done my exams. I went to the family holiday, went to Pontins, I think it was, in Wales or somewhere like that. And I was playing Gallagher and Zevius and all the rest of it. Anyway, while I was on holiday, my friend Stephen, he'd applied for a job as a games programmer at a company called Mr. Micro. In Swinton, just outside of Manchester, and he went down there, and he was a great guy, Steve, he really was, but he didn't do that much of the programming. He was somebody I programmed with, but I ended up doing the lion's share of it, if you will. So when he went for the interview, it didn't go that well for him, but Jim Gregory, the owner of the company, asked to see me, and I was on holiday, so when I came back, Steve told me all about it. I went down there, and I managed to get myself on one of the YTS schemes, if you remember those, the youth training schemes, working as a programmer. So I went down there a little bit, and I started off, and I was just doing some in-house stuff at first, graphics editors and things like that, and finding my feet. And I was used to programming with this little cartridge hanging out of the back of my Commodore 64, but of course it was all cross-development, very professional there. So you program on a PC and fire it over a serial or a parallel cable into your target device, your Spectrum or your Commodore 64, etc. So it was quite new to me, all that part of it. So I learned that for a little while, and I worked with some great guys down there. I worked with Rob Nicholson, who did the Amiga and Atari ST version of Elite for Firebird.
Right, yeah.
I worked with John White and Greg Duddle. They became very big at Psygnosis, actually. Greg became quite a famous producer for them, and a few other guys as well who somebody went working on dashboard display systems for, I think it was Marconi, who make the systems for Porsche, etc. And, so they've done very well for themselves, but I didn't do quite so well. But, it was good times. I worked on quite a few projects with them, and worked on a few others after Mr. Micro. They became handmade made software actually. Mr. Micro went bust.
I think I know the name. Yeah, I'm sure I've recognised the name.
They did a few games on the Atari Lynx, Awesome Golf, and I think they did one on the Jaguar as well. I think it might have been Katsumi Ninja or something like that, like a Mortal Kombat ripoff. It was shocking. I didn't have anything to do with that, thankfully. So, Mr. Micro, they were around from the very early days. You know, they did conversions of Sabre Wolf and things like that, Willow Pattern and that kind of thing. So, you know, they didn't have their own IPs, but they did work on some quite high-profile products. And, you know, I enjoyed it very much.
Mm-hmm. So when did you actually kind of give up the? I'm presuming you're not in the sort of programming industry now.
No, not in the industry at all. I do some recreational programming. Basically, what happened was I ended up losing money at Mr. Micro because they went to the wall twice. First as Mr. Micro and secondly as Handmade Software. I stuck with them. And, you know, it didn't work out that well for me. You know, I ended up losing a little bit of money and it was difficult to make ends meet despite the passion for it. You know, your passion's not going to pay the bills. No. And I did a bit of freelance work after that. I went working for a company called 221B Software in Sheffield, and they were similar to Mr. Micro, conversion house, working on budget titles, etc. I did Dalek Attack for them, which was Doctor Who tie-in, and for alternative software they were called at the time, a guy called Roger Hulley ran that unit, and after that 221B went to the wall, which a lot of companies were doing at the time, and I got some extra conversion work on a freelance basis, and it was actually for a Hulk Hogan title called Suburban Commando, which was not the greatest of films, but it was an okay game. I got on the front cover of Commodore format with that one for the 64 version of it, so I was quite happy with that. Yeah.
Excellent. So what sort of like timeline are we talking about? I mean, what year was that when you eventually decided to? I was going to say go and get a real job, but a non-programming job. When was that? What year are you talking about?
Probably started off probably about 85, all the way through to probably late 93, early 94, somewhere around there. So about 9 years in the industry.
Ah, that's yeah. If you have, I mean, so you're not involved in programming at all now.
Not commercially, no, just recreationally, you know. I like looking at little parts of games or little problems or different programming languages, etc. and just putting my toe in a little bit, you know, and getting used to it, keeping my hand in, but not for any financial gain at all, just a recreational thing, really.
Yeah, have you never had any like desire to write like a Bruce Lee 3 or something for Commodore 64 or that? Or?
Yeah, you do, but the problem is that you do need somebody with a little bit of graphical finesse. I mean, programmer graphics, as I call them, don't cut it at all these days. You know, and finding an artist isn't difficult. Finding one that'll stick with you through a project is. Very often they get sidetracked by other things or they want to do other things, so it can be difficult, really. If I had a local artist or somebody who had a real passion and wanted to see a project through to the end, I might be persuaded to do something, but it can be quite frustrating when you've got half the graphics done and then they suddenly disappear. You know, it's happened to me countless times.
Yeah. I suppose nowadays, I mean, have you ever even like contemplated like getting involved in iOS or something like that? I mean, obviously that's been a big thing. It's kind of like resurrected the sort of bedroom coder again, isn't it?
It is, you know, to a degree, but I think that boat has sailed now. I think it's reached saturation point. To get your product noticed and get any meaningful amounts of sales from it, you need promotion behind you. You need the magazines on board, which means you've got to wine and dine them, you know, on there, whether it's a physical magazine or an online magazine, you know, the big review sites. You need to get them to cover your game. You need the coverage. You need everything else. You need people on board, and you can't do it as a one-man band. It's very rare that you'll see a truly independent developer with nobody behind them do well. There's usually some effectively working for somebody, you know, but they are sold as being an indie. So you can do well at it, but I think it's reached saturation point now. I mean, to be honest with you, I've got an Android phone, and it's packed full of apps. You know, they're all there. They're all legitimate apps, and they're all free. You know, Google keeps sending me the Google rewards thing, so I'll do that. That builds up my Google credit, and then I'll go and buy a game or two out of the store. And Amazon have got the free game of the day, and this, that, and the other. And I've not spent a penny on everything, and my phone's absolutely loaded with great games. You know, and it's a lot of people are like that these days. They just don't buy apps, so if they do, they'll buy the big ones, you know, the Minecraft or whatever it might be. You know?
Aye. I think that's kind of, I suppose, a good and bad thing. I mean, the whole iOS tablet sort of games thing. I mean, people will, you say to somebody. I mean, I was showing somebody, what was it, Gradius? I can't remember what it's called, Gradius 3 or something on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And they're like, how much is that? I says, oh, it's $7.99. $7.99. Bloody hell! I'm like, a minute, $7.99 is bugger all.
Yeah.
People want things for nothing.
Yeah.
And they, as you say, they're getting games for nothing now, and it's completely changed the way people look at games now.
Yeah, and then you've got like the freemium or pay-to-win kind of marketing model as well, where you're getting a real highly produced game. It's got excellent audio, excellent sound. You can see there's been a lot of time spent on it. You know, it's not thrown together. And then you play it, you might get a week's worth out of it. Then you've got to start paying for it. You know, you need your coins or your crystals or whatever it is you need to progress, and that turns a lot of people off as well. You know, it's like if I'm going to buy a game, just let me buy it. I don't want to pay 90 quid for it in £2 instalments, you know.
I must admit, I do get annoyed that when I completely get the free game. If it's free to kind of download, then fair enough. They want to recoup some money,
exactly,
so you've got to pay so much for coins, etc. What are your thoughts on if you buy a game for your PlayStation 4? And you've got to pay to unlock bits that are already on the disc. What do you kind of think about that?
To be honest with you, with most kind of DLC, I don't usually play a game through to completion anyway. I usually, wander away from it for one reason or another, thinking, I'll get back to that next week, and never do. You know, I've got so many half-finished games that personally, it'd have to be something that I'm really passionate about, or something that I play with my friends, or something like that, where, you need the new DLC because you've got the new maps or whatever, that kind of thing, and then I will occasionally buy it. I do buy a lot of games, but I don't buy a lot of DLC, to be honest with you. I'm not really into that kind of marketing model. I would much rather just pay once, even if it's paying a little more, and get the full experience, you know.
And you've got the game.
Yeah,
that's right.
I struggle a little bit with it, with the DLC and everything, especially when you look at some titles and the DLC added all together is 3 times the initial cost of the game. It's like, what? Unbelievable.
It's when you see things. I remember my daughter for a long time was playing what was it, the Smurfs on the iPad, and this is maybe 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could actually go into the store and it was like, $79.99 for like 10,000 gems.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, who would spend £80, for like virtual credit? That's just ridiculous.
My girlfriend, honestly, she plays some kind of it's like a restaurant game where you have to fulfill the orders of customers as they come in. They come in. One guy will want a burger and a Diet Coke. Another guy will want a hot dog. So you've got to cook them all up and prepare them. And it's basically Tapper, but an upgraded version of it. And she's been playing that. She said, I've got to pay for it now. I'm not going back to it. Next thing I know, she spent 45 quid on coins on it. Like, well, as long as you're happy. She has had her money's worth, though. She has been on it.
I think my daughter played that one, actually.
Yeah.
I'm sure she did, yeah. No, that she can stick it in her CV and she'll walk into a job in McDonald's, no problem.
Yeah. True life skill there.
So anyway, Jay, yep, I know your big passion is a bit like myself, shmups or shoot 'em ups.
Absolutely, yeah.
Uninitiated. What is it about shoot 'em ups that you like so much?
Well, I think it's a twofold thing, because like many people, one of the first arcade games I saw was Space Invaders, and that dragged me straight into the genre, really. And secondly, I think its longevity for me is the purity of it. You dodge, you shoot, and that's it. Essentially, no matter which shoot 'em up it is, it's not a complicated system to learn usually. So some are quite involved, but it's just that pure essence of gameplay. and how they've managed to keep it fresh for decades is amazing, really. You know, you would have thought it had died off within the first few years, but, you know, it's still going to this day.
And totally agree with you. I think it is. It's probably the purest form of gaming.
Yeah.
You know, as you say, it's left and right, maybe up and down if you're lucky, and one fire button, and that is it. There's no rules, and if you die, it's because you've actually made an arse of it, sort of thing.
Yeah, you know, you've got the pattern-based games where the enemies will always move in the same pattern at that particular part of a level, etc. And then, you know, there's other games as well where it's more reactionary, where you'll get different enemies or different approaches depending how well you've done, etc. But essentially, yeah, you're right. You know, it's your fault if you've died, even if you need to learn the levels. You know, that's part of it. You do need to learn some games levels. But yeah, it's absolute purity, I would say. That's the simplest, most meaningful answer I can give.
It's kind of stripping video games back to their most basic.
It is, yeah, the very really, core. Yeah, you know. Yeah.
What you mentioned Space Invaders. When did you first? Was that sort of your first ever video game that you ever saw, like an arcade game?
I think it probably was. Yes. I was really lucky actually regarding video games in that we had an Asian shop around the corner, and it was a double-fronted shop, and in one half they had all old school kind of sweets in there in the jars and everything, and the other one was just a general grocer's. The sweet section of it wasn't doing very well, and I just walked past there one day and noticed that they blacked all the windows out, but the door was open. I could see some lights, hear some noise. I went in there, and there was an arcade literally 50 yards from the front door. So
when are we talking about? What
year are we talking about? Maybe 79, maybe early 80s, very early on, really. And you know, it was jam-packed, that place. It was incredible. It was called Mukesh Enterprises, it was called, the little shop. I remember it. And the shop's still there. It's changed hands now, but it's still trading as a different business at the current time. But yeah, that was it, and that started my love affair, really, and I'm still going strong.
What I absolutely love, and even now I still get excited when I talk about the whole, how, you know, this whole thing, that when it first kicked off, the excitement, you can't understate just what it was like. I mean, talking to anybody nowadays, the kind of PlayStation communities, I like to call them, people who grew up with the PlayStation, games and video games and interaction with TVs and things, that's just kind of norm. But you know, to try and let people understand, sort of 1977, you know, mid 70s, kind of towards late 70s, all we had. I can always remember an article. I think it was in the Sun newspaper, and it was they were talking about this Space Invaders, and there was an article saying how this kid, his dad was telling him all about Space Invaders, but it was in the pub and he couldn't get into the pub, and he bought his son, it was what do you call it, a Grandstand Galaxy little Space Invaders.
Yeah.
So that's what we had. I mean, I in fact I remember my mum and dad promised me one of these things for my birthday. So we went to John Menzies. Did you have John Menzies down in England?
I think they are now, but back at the time I don't remember it, to be honest with you. But I have seen them in later years.
It was kind of like W.H. Smith, really.
Yeah.
But they had this big wall of LCD games. And I remember going in, and I think there was one, like, there was Alec Higgins snooker, and there was all these different things, and I'm like, oh, that one, it's like, oh, that's $24.99. No, you can have that one there, and it was like $9.99, and it was shite. It was, I can't even remember what it was called. I've actually still got it. It's the one, I did have a collection of these for quite a while, but I got rid of them because I never used them.
Yeah.
I kind of realised that they're actually pretty dull things. But that's what we had, and then obviously we got I got the, what do you call it, it was the Binatone Pong machine.
Yeah, we had a few variations of those in the household. We did play it, but looking back on it, yeah.
Pretty dull. Even back in 1979, playing Pong got boring very quickly.
Or football or tennis or the 101 other variations.
And obviously, I mean, well, I can, and I'm totally taking over the conversation. I'm asking you a question and I'm jumping ahead. But I can always remember I started doing judo at the local, it's called sports centre.
Yeah.
And I remember going in there one day, and there was just this crowd of people around this thing, and I'm like, what's that? And it was like it looked like a big giant fridge sort of thing, and hearing noises coming from it, and I kind of peered over, and it was Space Invaders. And, you know, from that point on, it just absolutely mesmerised me. It was the whole base of the thing. You were looking down. Obviously, it was old kind of mirrors and reflections. You weren't actually looking at the screen. You're looking at
looking at projection work you over the painting. Yeah.
So it didn't even you didn't get it crystal clear. It was kind of sort of they were almost like see-through kind of thing, weren't they? Because I think they were overlaid in the sort of planet.
Added this otherworldly feel to it, I thought as well.
It was, and obviously you had the sort of the side art with the machine. It was like the big Space Invader with the big. The Space Invader never looked anything like that.
No.
It was like it looked like a sort of giant yeti, and it was holding this big giant missile, and it was just like, bloody hell, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And obviously, shortly after that, the Atari 2600 came out, and my parents simply couldn't afford one, and I never ever got to get it, you know. But so that was your first. So what do you make it like Space Invaders? It was certainly iconic. It was probably responsible for probably the birth of the video game industry that we know now.
Yeah.
Do you still play Space Invaders? What do you think of it now?
I don't like the game, no, to be honest with you. I love shoot 'em ups, but that particular game, I do like some of the more modern spin-offs. They're quite interested and mix it up a little bit, but it's just too repetitive for me these days. It doesn't really hold my attention. I can't. I'm very rare that I'll actually die 3 times. I'll end up just turning it off. I'll have a quick look at it, play it for 5-10 minutes or something like that, and then think, yeah, that's Space Invaders. Now let's put a proper game on. The nostalgia's strong with it, and I do like it. And like you said, the cabinet design and the artwork and the sound especially. You know, if you had that turned up loud, my God, you know, really was something else. But as a game these days, it's one of the few that's just not held its interest for me, you know. Other games, a little bit later, Galaxian, you know, onwards, still play Galaxian, still enjoy it a lot, but, you know, Space Invaders, not really for me, no. How about yourself? How do you feel about it?
I'm exactly the same. I actually find Space Invaders quite a boring game to play now.
Yeah.
I will, on the very odd occasion, have a game of it, and I'm just exactly like yourself. I mean, I think I don't know. I think possibly if it start, I mean, it does get hard quite quickly. But I think possibly the first maybe 3 or 4 screens, it's quite boring. You know, there's really nothing happening. Possibly if you could sort of start it a bit more difficult, then I might be more inclined to play it, kind of thing. But obviously it was a very, very kind of first shoot 'em up as we know it.
At the time, it was incredible. Yeah, it was a real milestone for looking at what had gone before it. Really, shoot 'em up wise, just without really looking it up. I can think of like Seawolf. Do you remember Seawolf?
Is that the one you had the big?
Periscope, and you know.
Looked.
I think that was a few years before it, and. It was okay, you know, but it didn't have the impact that Space Invaders did, obviously, you know.
Yeah, you know what's interesting with sort of Space Invaders? I've got a feature that I call Arcade Perfect My Arse.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I'm talking utter nonsense because I don't even know what I'm doing. That was the year that was, and basically all I've really done is I've looked at. I think I went back. Was it 1975? I basically went and loaded up MAME, sorted games by year.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, 1975, and I just kind of played about an hour's worth of games, and I mean, I think I took up to 1995, and it's just sideways scrolls, and I've kind of given up. I'm kind of bored of that now. So,
right.
But what was interesting in the very, very early games, 1975, 76, you had stuff like was it Night Driver? I think it was.
Yeah, Night Driver. That's right.
Was that the one that had like the wavy road?
Yeah, yeah.
The road was kind of, it was just like two lines. It looked like an oscilloscope sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, you had that. Then you had obviously Space Invaders. In fact,
Boot Hill was another early one.
Yeah,
Do you remember that?
Boot Hill. That's right. You had like the Atari basketball and that kind of thing, the big trackball. What was interesting about all these early games? I mean, Space Invaders came 4 years after. All these early games, it was all, you got like 2 minutes. There wasn't such a thing as what do you call it, lives. It was like you were allocated
a timed game. Yeah.
Same with what do you call it, sprint. There's 4-player sprint. I always remember doing that when the shows used to come to where I stay. You know, obviously, again, I think it was you had like, you know, 1.5 minutes or something. But the lives thing, I think, from what I can gather, I think Space Invaders was one of the first games to introduce lives.
You could well be right on that one. I'm not too sure about it, but I can't think of anything that came before it, really.
I would be interested to know why did they? Because all these games, the first sort of generation games, they were all based on time. So I wonder why somebody decided, no, never mind time. Because why not make Space? Why not make Space Invaders infinite lives, but you get 2 minutes? I wonder why they decided, no, we're going to do away with the time limit type thing, and we'll put it on your lives. So yeah, that was. I wonder what actually. All the early games, they were all based on time, and I wonder why they obviously why did they choose to think, well, we'll do
an abstract concept, really, isn't it? If you think about it, you know, the introduction of the live scenario, really, you know, to just pluck that out somewhere, you know, pluck it out of the air. When you think of the plot as such, anyway, you know, the Space Invaders coming to Earth, etc., you would have thought that time or one life would make more sense to fit in with the story, but I don't know.
Aye, because I mean, I suppose, you know, from an addiction point of view, you want to get. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, arcade games are designed to make money.
Absolutely.
You would think that having, you know, you get an extra minute for 10 pence, that would have been the way to go. Because obviously, certain people came along who mastered these games, and it turned down they basically, you know, they could go in, they could put one credit in, they could play for hours at that time. Whereas if it was a time-based thing, you simply couldn't do that. But I think, I mean, obviously, since when Space Invaders came along, it introduced the life side of things, and I can't think, apart from like driving games, I can't think of any other shoot 'em up type game, arcade type game, platformy type game where it was like based on time.
Yeah. No, not really. No, nothing's jumping out at me, to be honest with you.
But aye, it's so. I mean, so Space Invaders. Yeah, I think we're both agreed that it was obviously.
It was a pioneer. It was amazing. It was incredible that it all came from one developer as well. And you know, I've read quite a bit about the history of it, but you know, I don't remember the live situation. Funnily enough, but I'll look into it later. But curious.
Just want to take away with you.
Curious now, but yeah. I would say it's a fantastic, amazing, pioneering game, defined the genre, really put it on the map, you know, the whole arcade industry. But as a game in and of itself today, for me, it's pretty much lost its magic. You know, I'm not really interested in playing it. I'd rather read a book or do anything else and play Space Invaders, you know.
I'm the same, but yeah, you touched on a game, Galaxian. I mean, again, I can't remember when that came out. Obviously, it came out probably about a year later. But I think, am I right in thinking that was one of the first games to feature colour?
There were coloured games before it, but a lot of that colour, as far as I understand it, was fake. It was actually cellophane bands on the screen. You know,
just these strips across.
Yeah, I think they did have that aspect of it. But I think it was the first one to have multicoloured sprites, you know, where you could have two different colours next to each other. They weren't dependent on where they were on the screen. And I think there was a few firsts with it as well. You know, you could... you had the Starfield as well, which hadn't been seen before.
That was just magical, wasn't it?
Which did add a lot to it, really. It's simple, obviously, but, you know, it's very atmospheric. And the strange thing about that one, for me, Galaxian, somehow I have a mental link with it, being in Blackpool and having fish and chips in a cafe. And years later, after not seeing Galaxian for probably 10, 20 years, something like that, I booted up Mame, and it was one of the first games that I put onto it. And as soon as I saw it, I could smell fish and chips. There you go, make of that what you will.
I don't suppose your girlfriend was making chips at the time? No.
Well, she wasn't when I started playing, but I probably persuaded her to afterwards.
But yeah, I mean, it was, to me, it was one of these games. It was eye catching. You could always spot a Galaxian machine. I always remember going to, it was down in Heathrow Airport, and you know, it was just, I think it was 1982, whatever it was, and you could just see this glowing, and the noise as well. I mean, I made that video the other day there about, you know, about music and games and that kind of thing. But you know, I think Galaxian was one game that the sound was just fantastic. You know, even now it's awesome sound. It's got to be turned up nice and loud.
I thought it really did rework Space Invaders in a very clever way. I thought, you know, the sound is one aspect of it. Space Invaders sounds very iconic, and the Galaxian, it took it a step further. I think it really drew you in, you know, and heightened the tension. But from a gameplay aspect, if you look at it, you've got the aliens which are at the top of the screen, you know, they're moving in some kind of formation, you're at the bottom of the screen, you know, it looks like it's on the surface, it's very similar games, but obviously in Space Invaders, you are looking to clear it in a strategic way and get rid of them before they reach the bottom, and Galaxians is very different. You're looking out for kamikazes, you know, if you go ahead and try and clear it as fast as possible, you're not going to get a high score, you're just going to increase the difficulty too much, so you're looking at picking off the kamikazes rather than, you know, you don't really want to hit them before they move in, and it did turn it on its head a little bit, really, you know, the Space Invaders idea, and you know, did a much better game, I thought, you know, produced a much better game in the end. Very, very great game, and of that era, it's probably one of my favourites. I don't think there's much before Galaxian that I'd go back to today, really.
Even there was stuff like having Mooncrester and things like that. I wasn't a big fan of Mooncrester. I must admit, playing it now, it's
too erratic, I think. You know, the way the aliens move, you can do well at it. I've watched long plays on it and guys, you know, going round and round and round on it, but it's very difficult to predict, I think. And I don't like that. It felt unfair to me. You know, it didn't feel like it was my fault all the time.
It was almost like, it kind of reminded me almost similar to the LCD games. It wasn't like smooth kind of pixel scrolling. It was almost like it jumped in sort of like blocks. So sometimes you're hammering, you're trying to kill something.
Yeah.
And you just keep, the bullets just keep missing it, and then before you know it, you're dead.
The docking on it though, and the way that you could build your ship up and everything like that, it did have some good ideas, but I just thought the actual attack waves, the ways that the enemies moved, you know, I thought it was very unfair, and, you know, not very, not something that I was interested in, not when I was putting money in it anyway at the time. You know, I put 10p in that and you might get killed 3 times before you didn't really feel it was your fault. In another game, you don't really get that feeling. It wasn't common in arcade games. I think they could have probably used with a few more play testers or side tests or something from Mooncrester.
Yeah. I think it's only when you're going to MAME now, you realise just how many of these games were punted out at that point. As soon as Space Invaders hit the market, folk thought, oh wait a minute, we can make our own version. I mean, there's some bizarre games. There's one, is it Parsec, I think it is. It's a shoot 'em up. Oh no, Uniwars. It's funny how when you where I live, I'm in sort of central Scotland. I didn't live nearby to any arcades at all.
Right.
So the only exposure I really got of arcade machines was, you know, going down on holiday, stopping at the service station. But it was like chip shops or whatever. And Uniwars, that was, my dad used to be in the rugby club in Livingston, and that was one machine that they had down there. And I always remember that it's quite a bizarre game. It's got they drop little baddies. They look a bit like Berserk characters, but they drop beneath the playing field, and they've got these wee kind of spikes to try and stab you from underneath. It's a bit like there's a Hunchback. You've got the soldiers trying to jab you a big spike. I've never seen that before, and I shoot 'em up.
Yeah, I'm just looking at screens of it now. I don't recall playing it, to be honest.
Uniwars, aye.
Yeah, he does look a bit odd. I can see the guy there just underneath the player ship. There's a dotted line, isn't there?
That's right.
Underneath that. Yeah, I'll have a look at it. Yeah, just out of curiosity.
To be fair, it's actually not a bad game. It's actually quite a good shoot 'em up.
Cool.
Just avoid the guys with the spikes. So I'm right in thinking probably. Obviously, there's various types. I mean, you've got your you've got your static single screen shoot 'em ups, stuff like Space Invaders, Galaxian. I mean, Mooncrester, was that the first game you think that you could actually build up your ship? Yeah, I can't think of anything before that really.
Did Gallagher come before Mooncrester?
You might be right actually.
I'm not sure without checking actually. I think Gallagher was 81, I think. Let me just have a quick look here. I think it was. Yeah, Gallagher was 81 and Mooncrester was 1980 actually, yeah, slightly before.
So Mooncrester was before it.
It was, yeah. It could be the first, like you said, first one to build up the ship in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I usually think of Gallagher as being a pioneer of that, but Mooncrester actually did come before it, didn't it?
Aye. Good game, Gallagher. So when you play Gallagher, do you go for the instantly 2 ships, or do you just like to stick with the single ships?
I try and always run 2 ships if I can. I try and get it at the first opportunity. Yeah, usually I'll only pick off the aliens on the first screen that are around the command ships when they come down. The ones that take 2 shots, the ones that beam you up. So I'll try and weaken them, get them down to their alternate colour, so they only need 1 more shot, and that's it. Wait for the beam. That's pretty much what I do, and try and run 2 ships. If I lose 1 ship, first thing again, try and get the second one. How about yourself?
Probably I think you can certainly build up a much bigger score a lot quicker with the 2 ships. Although I think you're obviously sacrificing lives kind of thing. I think I could probably get a better score, I think, using the single ships.
Right.
And getting my 3 lives rather than using the 2, but I tend to go for the 2 as well, I think.
You've got to be really good on the challenging stages, or especially the later ones with 1 ship, because you've only got 1.
That's right.
Yeah. Great game though, Gallagher. I love that game to bits. Probably, at the time, it was the one that I spent the most money on, absolutely. You know,
is that when you played in arcades quite a bit?
Yeah, we did have that one in that arcade that I mentioned, local to where I lived. We had that in there for years, actually. It was in there for about 4 years or something, and everybody used to play it, and, you know, we knew everybody on the high score table, and it was constantly changing, so it was a real competitive scene at the time. Loved it.
Just before we move on, I've seen the video. I was at Manchester at the weekend.
Yeah.
And I had a quick shot of Galaxian. I think my high score is about 20-odd thousand, which isn't bad sort of thing. But I went back later on, and there was a guy playing it, and he was on 250,000 points. I'm like, what else? Of course, I stood and watched him, and then eventually died. And I said to him, "What's your best score?" He says, "Oh, I've done 1.5 million." But I was trying to explain to my mate, because we had a 2-player game of Galaxian, and he was just hammering at the button. I said, no, don't do that. I said, look, what you need to understand about this game, I said, it's all about points. I says, if you clear a screen really quick, you're going to go into a harder level, so you're better to try and pick them off.
Absolutely,
sort of thing. So
yeah, that's a strategy.
You know, aye. So, you know, he started doing that. But what was I going to say there? My mind's going a complete blank again.
I mean, there's a few other games as well, similar to that kind of single screen, you know, without scrolling, or just a simple Starfield. Like Carnival was a bit of an off-the-wall game. Do you know the game, Carnival?
I was actually playing that. I go to we've got a sort of computer club in Edinburgh.
Oh yeah.
Once a month, and I recently picked myself up a ColecoVision.
Oh yeah, great console.
I've been looking for a ColecoVision for years, so I managed to get one. And one of the cartridges that it came with was Carnival. And funnily enough, we actually spent most of the night, me and a couple of other guys, just taking turns at Carnival. It's actually it's a brilliant wee game.
It's great, yeah. Did it have the famous arcade music with it as well, like the fairground type music? Yeah,
it did. It even had like a really authentic sort of digitised like tin can sound when you hit the
the metal dinging sound. Yeah. But that's a game that not everybody remembers, or they look at it and they dismiss it quickly, and I think that's the wrong to, really. I think it's a great game. But one of the other ones as well, just before we move on, one of my other favourites of that type of game where it's simple aliens, Gallagher style and Galaxian style, just a Starfield, is Astro Blaster.
Oh, I like, yeah. Is that the one it goes and they look like TIE fighters? Is that the?
It has it has speech with it. The speech is very distinctive.
Oh no, wait a minute. What am I thinking of? you're. Oh, I'm thinking of Astro Fighter.
Not
Right,
sure
Astro Fighter is the one that looks like they moved this. They're very, very similar. But yeah, I think the one that you're talking about, Astro Blast, was it Astro Blast you're talking about? Yeah, I think it's got the wee kind of bit along the bottom. It shows you. I'm trying to think. I'm sure. Yeah, I think I'm thinking the Astro Fighter. Yeah, I know what one you're talking about.
Astro Blaster, it has the bottom part of the screen. It's got like a little bit of a panel down there, and you have a big fuel gauge on it, and you also have a laser temperature on there as well. You have your fire button, but you also have, I think it's called a warp button, or a second button you have, which slows everything down so you can pick off the aliens.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but that game for its time was incredible. The speech, even today, it's crystal clear, and this is a game from 1981. It had a lot of speech in there. It was atmospheric, but you had to balance. If you were taking too long, your fuel would run out. If you fired too many shots, your laser would overheat, so you had this juggling going on all the time, and then you'd only get one warp per sector before you docked with a mothership, etc. So you have to be strategic when you use your warp, so you'd wait for a particular nasty wave of aliens, think, right, use the warp here. And it also had a lot of secret bonuses in it. If you shot all the aliens without missing, you get a bonus, or if you shot them in a certain order, or if you dodged fireballs in a certain way, or if you docked your ship without moving it, all these different things that give you different bonuses, and it had this incredible depth to it, like all these hidden things, that weren't apparent at first. And that was another game that pioneered a lot of things for me anyway, a lot of new ideas in it, and it's still quite a good game to play, look it up, have a check it out, it's good.
Really think Astro Blaster.
Astro Blaster, yeah, by Sega.
I think I have played that one. But just you're talking about the word Astro. Obviously, there's Astro Fighter. Do you remember that one at all?
I'm not sure.
I think it was kind of similar. It just basically had different levels, and it was the aliens just slowly moved down. But what they used to do, they would fire kind of diagonal bullets, which always seemed to take you out. But that was a really distinctive one. I can remember playing that in arcades.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look on Mem though. It's 1979. It's got, rather than traditional black space background, it's got like a royal blue background to it.
That's the one. That's it. Yeah.
It looks a little bit like a Spectrum game, to be honest with you. The way that the colours are arranged, they look like they're trying to avoid colour clash. Yeah, it even came out on a cassette system, where the arcade, actually, I'm not sure whether that's for the speech or whether that was where the data was stored, I'm not sure.
What about, we're obviously, any other kind of static games? I'll tell you one just before interrupting you again, is Phoenix.
Oh,
Love Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix, that was very atmospheric, yeah. Great game.
When did Phoenix come out? That was pretty early as well. Sorry, I'm letting you do all the typing.
Alright, let me have a quick look. 1980.
1980, yeah.
But that again, yeah, nice twist and changed things up a little bit. Well, it was quite original really, as far as a lot of the games at the time, because a lot of them were direct clones or just graphic swaps really for existing games, and that one, yeah, pretty cool game actually.
Big graphics as well, the big birds kind of swooping about, and obviously I think
had wings off them, couldn't they?
you could kind of clip the wings.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the first shoot 'em ups that had a kind of like a mothership, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And you had to erode away, didn't you? It was scroll horizontally the strip, and you had to shoot through it. And yeah, I remember.
That's right. Oh, another game.
Had a shield as well. Did you have a shield in that?
Yeah, there was a button. Or I used to play it in the C64. There was an absolutely excellent version in the Commodore. What was it? Eagle Empire.
That's right.
Almost arcade perfect. I think you pulled back in the joystick to activate the shield. But there's, of course, we can't not mention this one is the mighty Gorf.
Oh yeah,
it's like a bastardized version of all the games.
it was okay. On one of my many visits to Pontins, our family holiday destination, they had a golf machine there, and I saw a drunk guy one night actually put the machine over with the joystick. So I didn't think it was possible, but yeah, he did it.
I actually had a big, it was only like a big kind of throttle.
Yeah, big flight stick kind of thing, wasn't it? The joystick with a trigger fire button, I believe, wasn't it? Rather than a separate one, I think it had a trigger on it.
Where it comes, Space Cadet.
Yeah.
Coin detected in pocket. Brilliant. That freaked me out the first time.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I've got money in my pocket. But when it's a game, I don't think it's not aged particularly well. When you actually look at, I mean, it's one of these games. The sum of all the parts is greater than all the individual parts. I mean, they're all pretty shitty.
Yeah, I don't think it stands up really particularly well, but it is very distinctive though, you know. It has the attract mode when you have the golf character bouncing across the screen, you know, before you put your money in there, and the speed as well.
What the hell was that?
I have no idea.
It was like a Pac-Man ghost with feet, eh?
Yeah, it was a strange one, wasn't it?
It looked like one of the characters of Panic, Space Panic, I think it was.
Yeah, certainly an odd game that golf, but still well known, everybody knows.
Oh, iconic again. Who actually made that? Who made Golf? Because what kind of surprises me is they obviously ripped off Space Invaders, they ripped off Galaxian as well.
It was one of the very early pioneers, actually, Dave Nutting Associates, and distributed through Midway. God. Tells you everything you need to know.
But then obviously moving on from the static ones, we started getting like, horizontally scrolling and then vertically scrolling as well. I mean, one of the first kind of scrolling shmups that I remember was Xavius.
I think it was the first one actually.
Bloody hard, that was a tough game.
It was, but you know, it offered you something that you'd never seen before. Obviously, exploring a terrain. You know, you're getting further into a map and seeing more detail in that.
That's right.
Also, you had the targeting system, didn't you, in front of your ship? So you had where you could bomb down for ground targets. So I think that was another thing it pioneered, as well as the scrolling landscape, was the two planes of play, if you like. You've got your level play with the ships and whatever it is going to be, and then you've got your ground targets as well. So yeah, it was. I'm surprised it didn't do better than it did and spawn a lot of sequels, you know, and become a bit more well known. People know of it, but it's not like the Gallagher series, is it? It didn't really catch on to that.
I mean, they brought out, was it Super Xavius, I think it was. I don't quite know what the...
Yeah, I think there's a 3D version of it as well, you know, 3D.
That's right, there was. Version. Which I've tried that in name, and it's actually not too bad. It's actually not a bad game. It's not Xavius, you know what I mean? But I tell me, you haven't tried there's a Xavius is out in the 3DS. Have you tried that at all?
I haven't. No, I don't own the 3DS. I don't really know the games.
It's surprisingly really good. What they've done is they've taken, they've converted quite a few games. They've taken, you know, Outrun, Space Harriers, Hang On, Xavius, and it sounds bizarre, but they've actually just taken the same game, the same graphics, but they've somehow 3D'ized it so that you feel like you're actually up above and you're shooting down, so you can actually feel the different.
Right.
You do feel you're kind of off the ground, and the bombs are kind of. And the bizarre thing is, it's actually using, for what I can gather, it's using the same graphics, but just the way they've obviously done the display.
Just rendered it to give you the depth.
It's really well done. It's actually
is
really.
Is it like a reworked game? Is it a brand new game, or is it like an authentic version of the arcade game?
I think they've actually they must have somehow emulated it.
Right.
But they've kind of
rendered
tweaked
it
slightly
differently.
so it's kind of playing high.
Cool.
It's actually really good.
I might have to pick one up actually. You got me curious on that as well now.
It's even like Outrun. It's again, they've just taken the same arcade graphics, but they've just, I don't know. They must. I'm not a technical guy at all, but they've kind of 3D'ized it, and it's actually really effective.
Right. No, I wasn't even aware that such things existed. To be honest with you, it sounds like they picked some great games there. Have they bundled these games together, or are they separate?
No, you're joking. No, it's a ridiculous, like £5.
Ooh.
Shocking. So what sort of like horizontal? When did am I right in thinking that Scramble would be one of the first horizontally scrolling games?
I think Defender was the first one, but it was like a traditional scroller in that, you know, you could go bi-directional.
Aye. Was there not some? Was there not some? No, I mean not Seawolf. Was there not some? I'm sure there was some. In fact, you might be able to tell me. I can always remember playing this game. Again, it was in the rugby club,
right?
And it was a horizontally scrolling game, and I'm sure the graphics were kind of colour, but you played the part of a little submarine. And I can always remember, like, you've got the wee kind of floating mines with the chains and that kind of stuff, and it was basically like Scramble, but it was underwater. And I've tried I've gone through MAME many times, and I just can't see that game. There's a few games that are similar, and it's probably my memory that's playing tricks. It probably is one of these games, but it's just not the game. I can always remember me and my sister used to play it quite a lot, but I've never actually been able to find it. Obviously, it was much later on. What was that game?
What was it? Was it like Scramble in that you went through a maze?
I think so. Yeah. No, yeah, I think it was, and I'm sure it was colour. You controlled this little sort of submarine. I'm sure it was colour.
And there's a game called Hellfire by Nintendo, and that came out in 1980. But it sounds similar to what you're saying. It's got like a colour. The bottom part of the screen's like a graduated blue, and then the top half, the horizon's like a graduated red.
What colour's the wee sprite?
It's like a cyan colour, the submarine, I think.
What's that called? What was the name of the game?
It's called Hellfire.
Hellfire, I'll have a look at that actually.
Nintendo.
I've never been able to find it, and it's always bugged me. It's one game that I can remember playing, but I just can't find it.
But there is one that's very much like Scramble, and it's underwater, and it sounds more like, I think, if it's got a Scramble-like background where you're avoiding the terrain, I think that might be it. It'll come to me, I'll leave that with me, it'll come to me. I can't think of it right now. But yeah, they were cool games. What did you think of Scramble as a game?
Again, I think it was a very eye-catching game. I couldn't get anywhere in it at all, but it was the black background. Did that have twinkling stars in that game? I can't remember if it did.
Possibly.
Did I? But I thought it was very eye-catching.
Yeah.
It was a game that used to take quite, and it was like silky smooth scrolling.
Oh yeah.
It was really, it used to grab me, but I couldn't play it. I think I could never get past the sort of meteoroid, the asteroids level. But I thought it was excellent. I mean, just the wee explosions, and it was really bright, kind of vivid graphics.
Yeah, you had to keep your fuel tops up as well, didn't you? By magically blowing up fuel dumps. You know.
How did that work? Well, you remember that next time I go to the petrol station, I'll just lob a grenade in or something.
It is a game that I go back to now and again. Probably about once a year I'll get the urge to play it, and I'll play it solid for maybe a week or something like that, putting in a good few hours every night over that week, and I've just tried to complete it, and I've never actually managed it.
How far have you got in it?
Really far. You know, I've obviously watched playthroughs and, you know how long the game is. It's just that right at the end of the game, I think one of the last sections is this part where you're just dodging from the extreme top to the bottom of the screen, and you're weaving through.
You've got to just get it perfect.
If you don't do it, and then it starts throwing rockets into the mix as well, you know, so you can almost do it. Like, I can see the end just there, but I've never actually managed it. But I do that with a lot of my old games, actually. Try to either complete them or complete them on a single credit. You know, that's the then I'll consider that I finished that arcade game. But I've not done it to very many, to be honest with you. They're not the easiest games to finish.
Interestingly, you should see that. I mean, I've got like the patience of a gnat. You know, I mean, I play a game and I'm crap at that. I'll move on to something else. But I started up a feature. What do you call it? What was it again? I want to be a video game champ. And basically, I just sort of picked a game. Now, I can't even remember for the life of me how I picked it. The first game that I picked, it's kind of, it is just was technically a shoot 'em up, is Berserk.
Oh yeah.
It's one of these games. Before I started playing it, I thought, that is shit. That is just dull. I mean, look at it. It's crap graphics. You know, really poor. Even the scrolling when you get to a new level,
or a new room, and
it's like really shit. And I thought it's crap. But I started playing it. And I maybe played it, I don't know, for maybe about a month. And it's the funny thing is, it's the simplicity belies just how actually tough a game it is. You know, if somebody's never played it before, they'll be lucky if they can last a couple of minutes. But I started playing it quite a lot, and I got up to about 20,000, I think it was 17,000, which doesn't sound very much, but You know, and it's an incredible game. It's just it's just exactly what we're talking about with other shoot 'em ups. It's as basic as you can possibly get. This one you can obviously move in 8 directions, but it's there's a lot of wee sort of tricks and just features about the game that you can
get the enemy to fire, then quickly up after his bullet, you know, and get that shot in while you've got half a second there, you know.
Get Evil O to kill the baddie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
surprisingly strategic, you know, when you start playing it in depth, you know, rather than a quick casual play. If you're actually looking to do well on the game, you know, you can employ quite a lot of strategy for such an early game. Whether that was intentional or accidental, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but it gives it that longevity though. People are still playing it. It's still relatively popular to this day.
I always remember hearing I can't remember what I heard about, but they were basically saying that the average, arcade games were written to make money, the same as like fruit machines and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they reckon that the average person would last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
On a game, and you know, I think nowadays we're so spoiled, you know, with MAME and just having ROMs and emulation and that kind of stuff. You put a game on, you go, that's rubbish, and I'll just switch on and put something else on. But if you actually take the time to learn a game, learn how to play it, get semi-proficient at it, it's amazing just how addictive it becomes, and you start to reap the rewards. You get a lot more out of the game.
Exactly. Yeah, you really get sucked into that universe a little bit, I think, with the better games, and you know, it's nice to be absorbed in it and lose yourself. And like, I watched your interview with Tony Temple.
Tony, yeah.
And very sound guy by the looks of things, you know, really cool of him to talk to you.
Tony's a good, I've known Tony for years, like, I met him down in Manchester again, he's a really good lad, like.
Excellent, you know, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched both parts of that, a lot later than I should have been up, but I was into it. I thought, I'm watching it all. I watched it all through. I really enjoyed that. But what he touched on in this interview was about zoning out almost in Missile Command, where you won't really be following the cursor, you just be looking at the centre of the screen, and your peripheral vision knows where everything is, and you know, you can weave through any obstacles that are there, plant your shot, move on to the next one, etc. I think the best games, they do allow you to play that way. I think once you become experienced enough with them, you know, you zone out a little bit to it. I do anyway when I'm playing certain games, and that's a mark of quality for me. You know, I know that's a good match for my play style. I can feel comfortable with it, do relatively well on it, and there's something there that I can't really put my finger on exactly what it is, but you know, he's touched on it there, and I understand what he's talking about, and I'm sure other people do as well. And the best games, I feel, offer you that opportunity. You know, get in there.
I mean, one of my sort of favourite programmers is Jeff Minter. I mean, he's written some cracking games, and some of the games that he's put, like Space Giraffe, and I mean, Space Giraffe came in for a lot of criticism on the Xbox 360. Just, you know, you're dying, people know what they're dying, but if you actually play these games, you know, the best shoot 'em ups in my opinion are the ones that, as you see, you've got to be semi-proficient at it, but after a couple of minutes, before you know, you're absorbed in the game and you are actually in the game, and you're completely oblivious to everything else that's going on. And I mean, I find if I'm playing, I mean, we'll touch on it later on, but I mean, one of my favourite arcade games is Robotron, and I can play the game for, you know, maybe have 10 goes and fucking crap, and then I have another game and I just, boom, everything just clicks, and it's like, boom, on fire, you know, and it's, everything just,
right.
You know, and it's, that's a mark of a good game. I couldn't imagine any other video game other than a shoot 'em up that would actually allow you to get into the zone. I mean, playing Sonic the Hedgehog, you might, you know, it's just a sort of, it's
different discipline entirely, I think. I think it does stand on its own, really, the more pure kind of shoot 'em up genre. It's they don't have that same magic. I think that's probably one of the reasons that it's kept me interested, I think, because it allows me to do that, you know, and play it in that way.
Aye. I've got a mate, Andy Low, Sick Boy, that's his kind of moniker online.
Oh yeah.
Andy's one of these. I mean, he used to write for. He was editor for Games Master magazine. He wrote for Total Film, and he's now an author. He now writes his own books. But Andy's one of these guys. He's just. I first met Andy about 2003, I think it was, and I'll have a two-player game of Space Invaders, like Robotron, and to see this guy play video games, it's like, fucking hell, he's a ninja, he's an absolute ninja at every game. An interesting story he told me when he used to, I can't remember what magazine he was working for, I think he was working for Total Film, or one of the sort of DVD magazines, and he got an invite by, was it the sort of Sega Power, I think it was, and they had just released this Virtua Tennis game, so he got invited along to the sort of the release, blah blah blah, and all these Sega guys, come on, have a go at this, come on, have a go at this, and Andy had never played it before, and he absolutely wiped, but not one guy took a single game off him, and they were absolutely thoroughly disgusted. But I mean, I've played them at FIFA Online. It's not even quick reaction games. Any video game.
He's just good at games, full stop.
He's just nuts. I mean, he used to play the arcades non-stop, but it's to watch a guy. I mean, I was down at, there's a thing called the Arcade Club. Have you heard of it, the Arcade Club?
No, I don't know that.
Where are you about, Jay? You're down in...
I'm in Exmouth, which is right on the southwest coast in Devon.
Right, so you're quite far down. No, it'll not be as far away as it was for me. A place called Devon, a place called Blackburn.
I come from Bolton originally, yeah, so Blackburn is quite close to where I'm originally from.
It's a guy, I don't know what his name is, his first name's Andy, and basically I think it's him and another guy, they have got probably the biggest collection of arcade games in the UK, outside Archer McLean. I think he sold a lot of his machines. But basically what they've done is they've just got this little warehouse, and they've got all these machines in it. And what you do is they're only open, I think they're only open at the weekend, Friday nights, Saturday nights, Sunday nights. It's £10 to get in. You turn up at 6 o'clock, it's £10 to get in, and this is like an arcade from heaven. It's like the best arcade. I mean, I was telling Jeff Minter that on Saturday. I said, have you been down there? And he went, no. And I was telling him, oh, fucking hell, I'll need to get along to that. I says, I said, you'll have to pay. Fucking Jeff Minter, you'll get in for nothing. But honestly, it is the best. Every arcade game you can think of. I mean, it's got like the sit down Star Wars. It's got the G-Lock 360. It's got the hydraulic outrun. It's got Space Harrier. It's got all the classic games. There's nothing.
Sounds like the best versions of the classic games as well, with all the hydraulics.
If Carlsberg made arcades, then this is the Carlsberg or Heineken, whatever it is.
You know what? It sounds almost identical to an outfit that was running in Exeter, which is about 10 miles away from me in Devon, called the Arcade Barn. Have you ever heard of that one? It shut down only a couple of years ago.
What's the guy's name?
I couldn't tell you, but I never made it down there. But I always wanted to go. But it sounds very similar.
I'm trying to think now. Wait a minute. No, there was a thing called. Again, it was. I used to be. The reason I know a lot of these guys, Jeff Minter and all that, is I've been on there's a Yak Yak forum.
That's right,
basically based around, I don't know if you've ever been to it. I mean, I was there from like 1998 sort of thing, so I've kind of grown up with all these guys, and we used to kind of organise like day trips. There's one, I can't remember, I'm sure it was maybe outside Oxford. It was called Retrocade. I can't remember the name of the guy that actually had it, but it was very similar. It was a big, massive arcade, it was like a big barn, and all these machines in it. And this is exactly what this arcade club's like.
Yeah.
But it's just awesome. I mean, they've even had a Terracrest arcade game. I love Terracrest. Never played it in arcades.
You don't see it very often, do you? Even back in the day, I didn't see it often. I think I might have seen it just once.
You should have a look at it. If you go to Facebook and just type in Arcade Club, think they're actually in the process of moving, because in fact what to do is, I don't know if it'll still be on it, BBC iPlayer, they did it's one of these antique type programs. It was like collecting hobbies type thing, and they did a feature on Arcade Club.
I'm sure it'll be archived somewhere. I'll look out for that. Yeah,
but it's absolutely superb. It's like the best collection of arcade games you could ever imagine.
I've just had a quick look at Arcade Barn's website now, and it closed down on the 6th of January, but the guy who ran it, he was called Aaron, If that sounds familiar with anybody in your circles, perhaps.
Now, you know, the guy that ran the, no, I don't know Aaron. I'm
No.
not really, I mean, you probably gather there's a lot of guys who are into the real arcade machines, and there's a bit of a community. I'm not really sure a lot of these guys. I think it was the guy Rav, R-A-V, that was the name. He was the guy that had the Retrocade.
Right. Another good forum that you might not know of is Jammer Plus. Have you ever been on there?
I've not been on it. I am familiar with it.
It's more for the guys with the dedicated cabs, really, you know, on PCBs, etc. A lot of the newer Japanese stuff, but you do get, you know, a nice feel of community there as well, and things you weren't aware of, really, just the amount of things that are going on that isn't on eBay. You know, the amount of trading that's done. If you're looking for something, or you know, you want some help with something, that's a good forum. You know, just to put the notes in and have a quick look.
So talking at arcades. I happened to, when we were having a wee break, I had a wee quick look on YouTube, and I noticed you've just put up a video you mentioning about having an arcade cab.
Yeah, I had two, and I've just moved down here recently to Exmouth, and the big cab, to be honest with you, I didn't really have a good spot for it, so it was right in the kitchen, right in the way, and it had, I put what Tony Temple referred to as an ironing board. It did have a bit of a Franken panel for the control panel. It wasn't outrageous, but it did have two sticks with 6 buttons each, a trackball, a spinner, plus all the coin buttons and everything. And I'm a big guy, so I needed a bit of room. You know, I didn't want to be cramped up playing it. So this thing was big anyway. So and I had a little bit of trouble with my car recently, which was unexpectedly. It caught me short, to be honest. I needed a bit of cash as well, so I thought, well, the time's come, because I've got another one. I've got a cocktail cabinet upstairs next to the computer, but yeah, the big cabinet's gone, I'm afraid.
So was that just mainly running on it, or was it?
It was an empty cab when I bought it, and I renovated it all. You know, got the CRT monitor in there, put a PC in there, etc. It ran MAME, Daphne, which was for the Laserdisc games, Dragon's Lair, etc. All the Sega stuff, Master System, Mega Drive, and Sega CD, PC Engine CD, SNES, Super Nintendo, GameCube, PlayStation 1 and 2, PC games, etc. But I did spend an awful lot of time making sure that everything was synced up perfectly. So it was running a custom version of MAME called Groovy MAME, it's called, and that basically outputs a 15 kilohertz signal. So you need a special kind of monitor to accept that signal, and you get the absolute authentic look of the arcade. It doesn't look like a PC running it. It looks like you would see, you know, on a proper monitor.
Ah, right.
Little bit of extra work, and you know, you needed specific cabling which you've got to make yourself, and you know, you've got to get certain graphics cards and drivers and everything, and then once all that's running, you've then got to make your graphics card work with all the traditional games, you know, that don't use that weird system. So it took me a bit of time to get done, and I did spend a lot of time building the control panel on it as well, because you know, working with great big sheets of perspex, and you're drilling, you know, 25 holes in it, and a great big one for the trackball, very easy to crack it, you know. So I did put a little bit of work, so it's hard to let go because I put so much work into it.
I bet you.
But because of my hand injury from playing that FPS game, I've not been able to handle power tools, you know, for a little while. So, you know, it's 90% finished. It's taking up all the kitchen. Plus, I need a couple of quid for the car, so it's gonna have to go.
That's a sin. So when did you sell that? Or you're actually selling it?
Last week. Yeah.
Is it gone then?
It has, yeah. I just I didn't want a load of tyre kickers around and people umming and ahhing, so I put it down there. It's just a very good price. Because I knew that I'd shift it quickly, and this guy saw it. He said, I want it. I said, I've got somebody else coming tomorrow. I said, everybody tells you that when you advertise and stuff on Gumtree. You know, I'll definitely be there. Then they hardly turn up.
I mean, they don't turn up.
So he said, look, I'm serious. I'll put a deposit in your bank account now for you, and he did that. So that was it, really. I knew he was having it, and really nice guy from Poole in Dorset. He travelled about 2 hours to get here with it, with a trailer, and brought his mate with him, and yeah, he'd never used MAME, didn't know anything about computers, wasn't sure about the wiring, you know, so what I did, I said, look, I'll talk you through everything, you record it all, like that. So he did that and recorded it, so he had a record of it. And then I've had a few emails back off him, and then he sent me a picture of his kids playing, and it says, "Yep, it's all up and running, and my kids are playing Street Fighter and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's over the moon with it."
Well, at least you'd be sad to see it go, but at the end of the day, it's nice to know that it's getting used.
Well, to be honest with you, I've spent so much money on the control for it. Like, I think I spent like 80 quid on the trackball and 60 quid on the spinner, and the joysticks were 30 quid each, and all the buttons were 250, and there's about 20 of them on there and everything. I'm thinking, if I break that down and just sell them, I'll probably get more, just for the components. But I wanted it to live on, really, a little bit. So it's nice that it's gone somewhere that it's been appreciated and being used. So yeah.
So you've still got a cocktail cab, you're saying then? Is that another MAME cab as well?
It is a MAME one. It's like a very early one, like a Space Invaders style, but it was a game called Head On. I don't know whether you've ever seen that game.
Oh, it was a wee maze one, aye.
That's it, yeah, when you have the car and you have to jump between the tracks.
That's right, that's an early game.
It was, yeah. I think this cocktail was 78, I think it is, or possibly 79. I've got a sticker inside, it'll tell me. But it was that cab that I bought just off eBay from a guy in Liverpool, and it was absolutely gutted. It was just the glass top and the wooden carcass and legs. There's no internals, no monitor, no control panels, no coin mechanism, nothing at all. So I've built it all up. I got a Panasonic 14-inch TV, which is a perfect fit, for the hole in the top. So I've got that in there, and stripped it all down, everything, mounted it as it should be, so it fits the plastic bezel on there, and built some control panels for it. Unusually though, what I've done, I've put 2 joysticks on the control panel. I managed to get a really tiny 4-way joystick. Now, a 4-way game might be like Pac-Man, where you can't go diagonal, and you don't want to go diagonal, because if you do, it'll confuse the game or go in the wrong direction, because it wasn't designed to do that. And I do like a game of Pac-Man, so I've got the normal big 8-way joystick and this tiny little black 4-way one, and 3 fire buttons for each player. So yeah, it works quite well, and I do like playing on it, but it's not a game you can really marathon on, because they're not the most ergonomic of things. You got your neck cranked over, you're sat down for as well, really sat down low, because I'm quite tall. So it's nice. I like it for the novelty. I think it looks great. It's got a real iconic look to it with the dark wood grain and everything, but as a practical thing to actually play games on, I prefer slouching in my chair with a 360 controller and playing on MAME, to be honest.
A bit easier. Yeah, well, I bought, I don't know if you've heard of Chris Wilkins.
I don't know.
Aye, Chris, he does a lot of these the books about like the story of Ocean and that kind of stuff.
Oh right, yeah.
He did, I think he also used to do the revival events.
Right, no, I've heard of the events, but I'm trying to think of his name. No, it doesn't ring a bell with me.
But anyway, again, I've known Chris. I think because I've been into this sort of this thing for such a long time.
Yeah.
It's quite a small world. The whole retro thing's kind of grown arms and legs, and it's really become more mainstream with retro gamer and that kind of stuff. But it's amazing just how many people from sort of early days. But Chris used to make MAME cabs.
Right.
And I couldn't make one myself. I'm alright with computers, but I couldn't build anything. So I contacted him. This would be, when would it be? 2000. I think it must be 2004, something like that. I contacted him and said, "Have you got any MAME cabs for sale?" "Yeah, I've got this little cocktail thing." So I went down and bought this thing. It was a wee cocktail cab, really, really nice.
Yeah.
Just a sort of single joystick, 4 buttons. But it was, it plays really, really well, but I think some of the wires were getting a bit loose, and, then it was about 2 years ago, we were down in play at Blackpool, and there was a guy, I'd never even heard of him before, selling bar top cabs.
Yeah.
So my mate decided to buy one. I thought, oh, that's the dog's bollocks, because I've always wanted like twin sticks for like Robotron and that kind of stuff. So my mate bought this one. I thought, that's brilliant. And then my other mates, I said, "You better just building one." And I said, "Oh, can you build one?" "Oh, aye." So I paid my mate to build me one. So he built me this bar top.
Awesome.
Which I've got in my games room. And what I've done is I've actually got it kind of balanced on top of a sort of unit, so it is kind of like I can sort of play it like a sort of stand-up.
Stand-up, yeah, you got it the right height, yeah.
You know, and it's fantastic. Saying that, it's like a lot of these things, you get them and then you think, God, I've not even switched the thing on for about a month, but I just love it. To me, I mean, it's you know, these meme cabs, I mean, I'm not that sort of anal when it comes to, the timing in this game's not quite right and that, you know.
I'm the same. It's good enough for me, ma'am, you know.
Absolutely. I totally get the whole proper, you know, cabs and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But you need a big bank balance. You need to be handy with a screwdriver, and plus you need the space as well. And I just simply don't have that. So, I mean, the main cab for me is absolutely ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, great solution it is. I agree.
You know, so have you ever actually owned an actual proper arcade game at all?
Yeah, I've had a few actually over the years. The very first one I got was just like an unbranded jammer cabinet. Do you know what the jammer is?
Yeah, it's just a board you can swap. You can just swap.
That's right. It's just a standard interface that arcade games use, you know, so you can, as you say, swap and change the boards pretty much. And it was a jammer cab, just a generic one. It had a game in the Capcom game called Section Z or Section Z.
Oh, I mean, that was a horizontally scrolling, a wee guy in a
That's right. Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, you could shoot both directions, and I probably wouldn't have even heard of the game if it wasn't through buying it with the cab. But I really enjoyed that. I had that for a while. Later on, I managed to get hold of a bootleg Street Fighter 2 turbo board for it, so that meant a new control panel. So I started hacking and changing it and everything. And then I've moved around the country quite a bit during my life, and it's just one of those things that was a big bulky thing, and I was sick of lugging it around. So you know, that one went by the wayside. But it's one of those novelty items, really, where I got it, I enjoyed it, I played the hell out of it, and then it just, you know, became this big bulky box that I didn't turn on, you know, in the corner. So I thought maybe it's time to let it go. And this was pre-MAME and everything, so it was the only real way of having an arcade machine.
An arcade machine,
It was just something magic about owning one. I'm really glad that I went for it. But if I had the space and I had the time, you know, I probably would get into serious collecting and get some dedicated machines. But as you say, it's not something you can do casually. You do need to put the time in, and you do certainly need a lot of space. I don't want to be like that guy who was climbing through his Star Wars cab to make a cup of tea, as Tony Temple was talking about, if you remember. You know, I've not quite been that bad, no, but I have taken up a little bit too much space in the house from time to time. Yeah.
I mean, Tony himself, he's got a fantastic little setup.
Yeah, he did a pan round of his room, didn't he?
He did.
He's gone for the little cabaret machines, hasn't he?
That's right. I mean, I'm trying to think what machines he's got. I mean, he got a loft conversion put in last year or the year before, I think it was, and he's restored. I mean, his missile command cab. It belonged to Archer McLean.
That's right.
I think Tony mentioned that, and Tony didn't really know who Archer McLean was
at the time. No, God, can you imagine that? I would be absolutely starstruck if I met him, you know, at a convention or anything, let alone going around to his gaff and buying a missile command off him.
Well, the funny thing is, I was talking about, what was I talking about? Talking about that Retrocade down in Oxford.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of had a road trip down there, I think 2005, and there was a Rakius and Andy Sickboy, he was there, and there was maybe about 15 of us who went in, and we were all playing the games, and I think you had to, some of the games you had to kind of press a button inside. I can't remember what game it was I was trying to play, and I was trying to get the game started, and I'm like, oh, it's not working. So then I opened up the wee panel, I'm trying to press buttons, and I could hear a guy says, oh, you need to press this button, mate, and I just saw the hand come round in front of me, and he pressed the button. I goes, oh, thanks very much. And I turned round, and it's fucking Archer McLean. And then we went outside, and there's his red Ferrari 147, you know, when I sort of nod to his Jimmy White Whirlwind snooker.
Incredible.
But that's the thing about
he strikes me as, I've never met him at all, or, you know, been in his presence in any way, but he does strike me as being a very personable kind of guy, you know, lots of time for everybody, and really does know his stuff, you know, that's what comes through strong, you know, from the interviews.
The thing is with these kind of, you know, I was talking to my mate when we were coming up from Manchester, talking about that, we were seeing how, what other kind of hobby I mean, there's probably his other hobbies, but what other sort of hobby, like video games, where you can actually, I mean, I wouldn't say they were like, they weren't celebrities as such. Well, I mean, I hate the word celebrity, you know, I really detest that. But, you know, back in the 80s, it was, you know, you read your computer magazines. In my case, it was Zap 64.
Yeah, same for me. I grew up on Zap. Yeah.
You know, and it was your Julian Rignalls, and I mean, Gary Liddon's a good mate of mine. I'm going running with Gary in a few weeks' time. You know, I mean, he lives up in Dundee, and he comes to our club now and again. And you know, and I mean, Gary was along at the club maybe about a year ago, and I said, right, what? We're talking about Delta. I says, right, one, you can show me how to play it, and so I can load it up, and Gary's trying to play it, and he was shite, you know, I said, fucking crap, I said, I thought you wrote it, oh, I did, I. Or I think it was Stavros Fasoulai.
Yeah, that's right, Stavros Fasoulai.
But Gary did the is it the E-load mix load or something?
Mixy-load thing, yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's these are guys like Jeff Minter and all that, these were guys that, you know, I read about in magazines, and, you know, I didn't idolise them, but they were. I suppose they were my heroes.
Same for me, you know. Yeah, Andrew Braybrook featured heavily, didn't he, in Zap, and Archer was in there as well. Jeff Minter had a presence, and you know, there's quite a few really. That the Sensible Software, of course, you know, they were always in Zap all the time, and
John Hare and all these guys.
And I think it did elevate them a bit, but rightly so. You know, it wasn't some kind of flash in the pan thing. These guys were pushing those old machines in ways that they weren't designed to be pushed, and you know, being so creative with them, and they definitely deserved that kind of, if you want to call it celebrity, I'm not sure of the best word for it really, but that elevated status, you know, some recognition. And I'm glad that they got it really, because without Zap, I don't think they would have, you know, a lot of publishers as well, they didn't want your name as a programmer or artist on anywhere on the product whatsoever, so they had to hide it away somewhere, you know. A lot of them would stipulate that in the contracts, you know, they really didn't. They wanted the product to be the star, not the programmer.
That's right, you know? That's right. But it's bizarre, like, you know, like 30 years later, I can go up to Jeff Minter, and how's it going, John? And fucking, you know, and chat away to him, you know what I mean, just like you're talking to your mates sort of thing, you know, and it's great that you can talk to these guys.
Yeah, so accessible, and yeah.
But they're just guys who write games, you know what I mean, they don't have any sort of feelings of grandeur or anything at all, you know, and it's but just the fact that you're actually able to interact with guys that you kind of looked up to, you know, as a kid is just.
You see many people asking for autographs, and you know, I imagine photographs are quite common with Jeff, for instance, you know, at a convention or something. But do they get asked for autographs and that kind of thing?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
You don't see it though. You don't see a lot of it going on.
Really, not really. I mean, I don't know. I suppose a lot of people won't know who Jeff Minter is. Yeah. You know what I mean? You've got to be of a certain age, kind of thing, like. But and it's the same way. Like, I mean, the big one for me was Dominic Diamond. I mean, I grew up with Games Master.
Yeah.
And when I joined Facebook, I thought, oh, who got Dominic Diamond? You know, friend request, and then it was like friend request accepted. I thought, oh, fucking hell. And then he was talking about, I do a lot of like distance running, and Dominic was posting about he was training for a half marathon, so I started commenting on his things, and he started writing back to me, and then he said that he was wanting to do a marathon, but he didn't know what to do. So I said, look, Dominic, I said, I've been training for a marathon. I said, I could give you some training tips. I send it here, mate, and he sent me his email address, so I emailed across this marathon training thing for him. And he goes, oh, that's fucking brilliant. And then about part of this, I just call it this computer club that I'm in. We've got a Facebook page, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to contact Dominic and see if he'll do something. So I contacted him just through email. I said, look, Dominic, I said, I'm part of this Edinburgh Retro Club. I says, what's the chances if I print off a few like sort of like logos, Edinburgh Computer Club, blah 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 blah. I says, would you give it your sort of your thumbs up type thing? That's fine, mate, no problem. So I emailed them across to him. Or in fact, I didn't. I got them laminated and I posted them to Canada. And he sent us back 3 or 4 pictures with the typical Dominic sort of, you know, winking kind of thing.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. And then when I started up this feature, he was always the one I thought, he would be an excellent guest, he really would, and I thought, you know what, if you don't ask. So I sent him a message on Facebook. I said, look, I've got this thing. I says, I know you don't like doing interviews. I says, but, and he came, yeah, no problem. Just give me a shout. And he says, aye. And so I got back to him. I says, what about like next Sunday at 1 o'clock? And I'm not kidding. I was absolutely, I was shitting bricks because I mean, and I don't know if you've listened to the interview.
Yeah.
I do. I am quite nervous sounding initially, but honestly, within about 5-10 minutes, it was like talking to your best mate. I mean, the funny thing is when you're talking to him, he's obviously very distinctive.
Yeah.
And when you're listening to him talking, I could have been listening to a podcast rather than it was actually me. I mean, it was me that was prompting him, obviously, what to say. I'm asking him a question, he's giving me an answer, but I was actually listening to it in the car today when I was going to my work, and I was in stitches, you know. But you know, what other in the industry could you sort of do that? You know what I mean? So I was very privileged that he gave me that. You know what I mean? Because I know he doesn't really do interviews, but he did say, he says you're Scottish, plus he says you helped me with my marathon training, so I don't mind at all, you know. But I mean, it was going to be strictly half an hour, and it ran to an hour.
That was great of him, you know, it really paid off though. You know, you reached out to him and, you know, he's returned your kind favour that you've done for him, and I'm sure that if something pops up in the future, he'd certainly give it some serious consideration.
Absolutely. The funny thing is, because Tony Temple, him and I are part of this forum, and we used to publish like monthly online magazines.
Yeah.
And Tony's interviewed. I mean, in fact, I'll tell you a really good story. Is you'll know Eugene Jarvis,
of course, yeah.
He is. Yeah. Tony, because Tony's the Missile Command World Champion, Tony knows your Billy Mitchells, he knows your Walter Days, he knows all these big hitters.
Yeah.
And he got in touch with Eugene Jarvis. He says, I write for this magazine, any chance of an interview? Yeah, no problem. So Tony interviewed him, and we had in this magazine we came up with what do you call it? Eugenius.
Yeah.
It's basically like 4 pictures of Eugene's head, all different colours, and we sent it to Eugene. And I've seen articles and the internet and that kind of stuff of Eugene. He's got his Way of the Road and Eugene t-shirt on.
That's excellent.
But the funny thing was, Tony has been trying to get a hold of Dominic Diamond for years, and he never gets back to him.
Right.
And the thing is, when I was interviewing Dominic, I was wanting to like say, right, thanks very much, Dominic. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks very much, bye. And then I was then going to say, oh, sorry, Dominic. I was going to say, Tony wants to know why you never write or take his phone calls. But when I said, thanks very much, Dominic, it's been great. Thanks very much, bye. He went, no problem. Cheers, mate. And then he was away. I thought, fuck, I didn't get that.
That'd have been nice just to squeeze that one in at the end.
Oh man.
Thanks for watching my Mamemeister channel. Please feel free to like, comment or subscribe. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter.